everyone, and welcome to Word on the Street Election Edition. Well, as you all probably know, Word on the Street, the traditional edition, is normally where we focus on people and culture matters that are happening in the workplace, with the workforce, and I give you my perspective on what's going on today, tomorrow, yesterday, in the workplace. Well, for Election Edition, I bring in current elected officials and elected official hopefuls to hear about their vision for the future of their office, what they're planning to accomplish, what their hopes and dreams are, how they're going to transform the world. And we talk about it here on Word on the Street Election Edition. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Word on the Street Election Edition. Joining us here today is Mayor Sam Adams, who is running for Multnomah County Commissioner District 2. And I cannot say enough how excited I am to have him here with us today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
So I think that everyone in the world knows who you are, right? Because you are famous. But for those who may not be familiar with Mayor Sam Adams, why don't you share with folks who you are?
Well, first, just call me Sam.
Okay, just call you Sam?
That's my preference.
Okay, you got
Always has been, even when I was serving as mayor. Well, maybe a little bit about my background. I grew up on the Oregon coast. My dad was a commercial fisherman and a special ed teacher. My mom, when I was young, was a full-time homemaker. And I have 3 siblings.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, 3 siblings. And it was an idyllic place in many ways to grow up. It's the kind of place where, you know, we would walk, we'd walk to school, we'd walk home. We weren't expected to be home until dinner time at 6, and we were expected to arrive on school on time. I mean, it was that kind of a small town feel, and we lived on this sort of ravine and this gully, and a whole bunch of families with kids our age sort of lived around the gully. So we all met in this very sort of mystical forested gully and, did the usual kids things. So I'm a coastie by early upbringing, and one of the things that really, my first connection with Portland was delivering the Portland Oregonian as a kid.
You had a paper route.
I had a paper route at 9 years old. I lied. You're supposed to be 11, but I lied and nobody cared. So started delivering the Oregonian, and about the time I began to question my sexual orientation, and I would read the paper, every single paper, because it rained so much in Newport, Oregon. They were often soggy, but I'd peel apart the soggy papers that I couldn't deliver. And I'd read them, and I'd read about this place called Portland, Oregon, and just was captivated by it as a 9-year-old. And one of the reasons as a sort of what I now know to be sort of emerging queer kid is they use the word gay and homosexual, and reported on how the Portland Town Council at the time was fighting for the rights of LGBT plus QI plus people. And I'm like, I got to get this. So Portland was like my beacon. I got to get to Portland. I will fit in. I will be accepted, and it looks like it's got a lot of cool things going on too. So from the age of, I also read about this state legislator named Vera Katz, and this is the mid-'70s, and I read about how she and others introduced this gay rights legislation in the state legislature, and she was from Portland.
Yeah.
And it just blows my mind that, later in life, I got to work for her.
Yeah.
So my upbringing, small town, dad was a commercial fisherman. My mom was a homemaker. At a certain point, because she was a high school dropout, she started commuting back to Linfield Community College to get her GED. And then she started spending a week at a time at Oregon State University and University of Oregon. So we basically lived with my father. And as she was still going to school, my parents got divorced, and it was not an amicable divorce. There was a lot of substance abuse disorder in my family, some mental health issues in my family, and so my mom came back and said to my father, you know, I'm going to end this, and I'm going to take the kids, and we're going to live in public student housing in Eugene so that I can finish up my college degree. My dad decided he was going to move to Eugene as well. Staying divorced, but moved to Eugene as well. And so during those really sort of tough times of early teenage years, we lived in student public housing across the street from the high school in what used to be called the Amazon Project, public housing project. So I've got the small town experience and then moving to what to me was this big town of Eugene and living in public housing that, you know, my schoolmates sort of sneered at, that you're living in the Amazon Project.
Wow.
So I experienced that. My mom, you know, had to take food stamps because she had lots of mouths to feed. And I remember standing in line at a grocery store with her called Mart, and she had three of us with her. And in those days, it was paper food stamps, literally food stamps. And
pull them out of the little.
That's
like,
right.
Rip them out.
Perforated if you're lucky.
Yep.
If you're lucky. And I remember this guy standing in line behind her, just started making these comments about, you know, something to the effect of, you wouldn't need the food stamps if you didn't have so many children, you know, you should be working. And my mom, who is such, and still is, such a strong, independent person, and it took a lot for her to accept any help, like food stamps or even public family housing. She just burst into tears and grabbed us and ran out of the store. So there was this sense in Eugene, I felt sort of very small town to begin with, and then I felt, you know, and in Newport we were middle class when we got to Eugene. We were lower income families and sort of considered on the dole. And so that sort of, Eugene's a beautiful city, but you know, that sort of stuck with me in Eugene, and I still read the Portland Oregonian every day in Eugene, like, I gotta get to Portland, it'll be better there.
Yeah. How did you decide that you wanted to go into politics the first time around?
It was really the upbringing, watching my family sort of disintegrate with substance abuse disorder and mental health issues while still in Newport, and inadequate services to sort of intervene on that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, saw my mom struggle even with the supports of, you know, subsidized family housing and food stamps and free food to get us by. I also saw how hard it was for her to, like, she couldn't get child care, and she had to go into debt.
Yeah.
You know, and she also worked part-time, and I worked part-time at a restaurant, and my siblings worked part-time as well. So I saw this from a very early age, this government thing, and how it definitely helped us through some tough times. But I also saw how it made it unnecessarily difficult for someone who was as sort of independent and earnest and tough as my mom, how unnecessarily difficult they made it for her to sort of bridge through a tough time. She did it, but, you know, she's a remarkable, exceptional person.
Yeah.
And I think it would have really slapped down most people. And so I was wired, you know, my mom jokes I was wired to get into government as its both biggest fan and its biggest critic.
Right on. Right on. Okay. So, Sam, I was going to say Mayor Adams, but Sam.
Sam I am.
Your political career in Portland has been marked by some pretty amazing achievements as well as controversy. Given your history, what compels you to return to politics now?
Well, I'm compelled to return to politics now because, and I'm compelled to return to politics now for a number of reasons. One, I love this place. You know, like I said, I was in love with this place at 9 years old. And I've loved it ever since. I got to move here finally and work here at the age of 24 with Vera Katz. And
Was that your first political job?
no, it was my second. My first political job, my first my first work in politics was as an intern for the Lane County Board of Commissioners.
Okay.
And the chair of the board, Peter DeFazio, who went on to become a member of Congress, and I went with his staff as well in the district to work for him. So it wasn't my first job. And then I went from working for Peter DeFazio, then I went to Salem and I worked for the Democratic House Majority Leader, and Vera Katz was the speaker.
Gotcha.
And so I got to know her there. And when she decided to run for Portland mayor, she asked me to be her campaign manager for Portland mayor. I remember I'd been to Portland before, but going to Portland and driving over the Markham Bridge, it was a different experience because I looked across this great big city that I idolized so much, and I'm like, what the have I done? What do I know about this city to help get this woman who I absolutely idolized, Vera Katz, idolized from a young age as well? You know, I think she's making a mistake. As I remember, I've never ran a campaign in Portland before. She's making a mistake, but she was insistent that she wanted me as her campaign manager. And she's the first employer I told that I was gay.
Okay.
We were sitting in Serrato's on 21st and H-I-J-K, Kearney. She's the first person I told.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's the first person I ever told I was gay before I accepted the job. And I asked her to go to lunch. She'd offered me the job. I said, let me think about it. And I was tired of sort of living in the closet, such a small closet. And I wasn't open with Peter DeFazio. He would have been fine with it, but I wasn't comfortable telling him. And so with Vera, I wanted to tell her, and I wanted her to be okay with it, because even back then, people would make an issue of the fact that, this is still when the Oregon Citizens Alliance was still active, and they might come after Vera because she hired a gay campaign manager. So I were sitting across the table at Serrato's, her favorite table, I came to understand, and I was so nervous. I was just like sweating, like I was pretty sure she would be okay. But this was a position that was highly visible. And I said, Vera, I'd love to take this job, but you need to know that I'm gay. And she's like, oh, you are? And I'm like, yes. And she's like, are you out? And I said, I'm out to my family and friends, and I'm slowly coming out in the professional world. And she leaned over, she had tears in her eyes, she took my hand and she said, honey, I want you no matter what, gay, not gay, tell people, don't tell people, I've got your back. And that was, if I had any reserve, which I don't think I did, for left to need to sort of fill up the tank to idolize her, that was it.
Wow.
The start of a long, wonderful relationship.
Wow. So
I'm not sure I'm answering your question.
long career in politics. Again, you've
So why
now?
Yeah.
Why are you back?
So I'm personally invested in this place. Not only it's what it has to offer now, but one thing I learned when I moved here is like, wow, this place can improve. You know, it hasn't even begun to tap its potential in
Right.
all kinds of ways. And that's exactly how Vera Katz felt as well. A big fan, obviously loved the city like I did, but obviously saw that it needed to continuously improve.
Right.
So I devoted with her, I mean, it was, 15, 16 years full-time, 6, 7 days a week, 15, 16 years, that we just went to work in trying to make this place better in all kinds of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel invested in the city.
Yeah.
Again, invested not only in what it is, but its untapped potential. And I know that sounds corny, but it happens to also be true.
Right.
And right now I feel like it's at this point where its recovery is not guaranteed, and neither is its demise.
Right.
And it's at this very delicate point where right now the government that I believe needs the most work,
Right.
in part because it has within its core focus two of the toughest issues facing this locale right now, and that's homelessness, mental illness and substance abuse disorder, and then also public safety, crime, lawlessness. And the city and the county have to work together. They share those responsibilities. And so I think I've got a unique offer to the voters. I think I can offer unique expertise and experience by getting the city and the county to work better together so we can move forward
Yes.
on these really, really tough issues. And I'm not afraid of taking on tough, controversial issues.
You have coined yourself. You have personally characterized yourself as a person who is unafraid to address controversial, tough situations, issues that are plaguing this great city, this great county. What is your philosophy behind this? Like, what is your approach? What is your strategy? Why do you characterize yourself as a person who's unafraid to address those things unapologetically?
I characterize initiatives on the really tough issues as being unafraid to try to show people that progress is possible, and to show other people it's okay to step up. It's okay to step up and agree with me, don't agree with me. It's important that all voices are heard, but don't be afraid. There is so much fear, even among the political class, that when you step up and take on a tough issue with realistic solutions at scale that are going to be controversial and create sort of shifts in the status quo, that you will be politically executed.
Absolutely. By someone on some side, somewhere.
And I want to contribute to this, that this is a fallacy, that you can step up, you can make a difference. If I can do it, as a once small town kid and a Eugenian, anybody else can do it as well. And that's an important part of whatever legacy I'm going to leave. That's one of the most important legacies I want to leave, because Portland's, if it has a secret sauce, Portland's secret sauce is it doesn't give up on issues.
Right.
And it doesn't go after solutions to issues with rhetoric. It goes after them with substance, and substance is controversial.
It is. I've known you for many, many years, and I've worked in government for many, many years.
Yes,
so of
you
course
have.
you can't not work in government and not know Mayor Sam Adams.
Sam.
Just Sam. But you are known for being hard charging,
Yeah,
straight shooting.
yeah.
And you're not known for that in any particular group. It's not like people of color are like, he's rude to me about issues. Or women are like, he's rude to women about issues. Or, short men say he's rude to short guys about issues.
No.
I actually coined a phrase about you. I'm like, he's a equal opportunity, very intense person. But some people see it as aggression, right? Some people are, you've been in very powerful positions. You are a very powerful person. Your power is real, right? And so this intensity that you bring to the work and this directive of like, no excuses. Like, why are we making excuses about this? We know we need to cross that street. What does it take to cross that street? Right. Who do we need to cross this street? How long is it going to take to get to cross this street? When I come back to you tomorrow, are we going to have a plan to cross this street? We're going to cross this street. When are we crossing the street? Like, that is Sam. That is Sam.
Relentless, yes.
Relentless. And you've taken some hits as a result of being unapologetically relentless about the pursuit of progress that's in the best interest of the city, the state, the region, the county. Are you going to show up different in this county position if you get it? Should we expect the same kind of tenacity, the same kind of super direct, some might say aggressive pointed, equal opportunity pointed communication style? Is that what we should expect?
I would say I modulate how I show up in these issues depending on who I'm working with. And I like to work with people. I like to work with teams. I get bored working for myself or with myself. So I like working with teams. I like disagreement. And so and when I was mayor, I had a hard-charging city council.
You did.
And we got amazing stuff done during the Great Recession.
You did.
And what I sought to create on the city council is this sort of frankness and exchange of views, and with an eye on what we're trying to accomplish, and to be as clear as we can on what the heck it is we're trying to accomplish. And of course, when you start that journey, you iterate along the way, and you get good ideas. And someone on the city council, Amanda Fritz, probably voted no more on my initiatives than anyone else on council. But I welcomed that critique because she was right sometimes in smaller fashions, sometimes in whole cloth. She was right. But it also made sure that my thinking and the folks I was working with, that our thinking was as sound as we could possibly make it.
Right.
So I am hard charging to get to the destination. I am very, I get energy from doing that with groups of folks. And I'm accused of mimicking Oprah Winfrey when I would host town halls and hold the mic and go into the crowd. The first thing we did, at these town halls is we spent sometimes 45 minutes, an hour, asking people why they were there and what are the issues or questions or concerns or complaints that they came here to raise. And we would show them the respect of doing that, and I would show them the respect of being the person who gave them the mic.
Right.
So
why Oprah? Why not Phil Donahue? Like,
can we just unpack that? Cooler. Oprah's way cooler.
Phil was a pioneer. He created space for Oprah.
I apologize. I shouldn't even try to compare myself with Oprah. God knows I'm not, but
no, I get what you're saying.
Her way of going out there and really eliciting and making people feel comfortable to say what they have to say and forget they're in a big room with a whole bunch of bureaucrats and elected officials and other people that might not or might agree with them. And that's part of that sort of facilitation of all that. But if things are lagging towards the goal,
right.
if we're stuck and we're not learning, if we're stuck and we're not advancing towards the goal, if we're not making our initial ideas better, if a whole bunch of things are holding us up and it seems artificial, then yeah, it's my job and it's other people's jobs to say, all right, we're stuck. let's brace and get through it.
What if you've got a group of constituents who don't see it your way, and they want to see something very different? We're pretty divided in the city, particularly around the two areas that you said are our most important
Yep.
things to solve, right? The homelessness, the drug use, the mental health crisis, and the safety, right?
Yep.
And the approach we should take to addressing those two things. So if you are elected into the county seat in District 2, which you're polling high, brother, you're polling high, okay? So if you are elected, and it seems like there's a solid chance that you will be elected into that role.
Knock on wood.
What should constituents who believe that housing first is a solution and defunding the police and the presence of police and the policing of homelessness, what should they expect from you with respect to you hearing their perspective?
Yeah, the search for, first off, a shared agreement on some basic facts. And even if it isn't shared agreement, then the differing facts should be on the table as well. And that's up to the sponsoring of these initiatives, government, to ask people, what is it you want to know about this issue? And it starts with that, and what is it you know about this issue that you want to contribute? What are the questions? What do you know that you want to contribute? And I love to start initiatives, the bigger and tougher they are, with that. And so that's exemplified by the way I like to do meetings. And I like town halls, and there's a lot of disagreement at town halls, and I like to get people's sort of questions and concerns and views and gripes and compliments out first.
Yeah.
While all of us in government are listening. Great educational process. Whether you disagree or agree, everyone is thinking in the room about what was just said.
Yeah.
So that's a key part of what I am looking for. And then, of course, I look for, are there any attributes that would be considered common ground? In not only in a goal, even if they have differing objectives to get to the goal, but is there any agreement in sort of the steps or tasks or objectives to get to a goal? And one of the great things about this community is that oftentimes people, after going through, and more steps obviously in the process, but after going through a process like that, is they do see the common grounds, or they respect that there are differences of opinion, and that respect comes from understanding where that opinion, the background for where that opinion comes from. Yeah. So it's, there's like my staff will joke, I've got there's 7 steps to taking on a really tough issue, maybe 8, depending on the issue, but it starts with this very humble process of going to talk to people about what do they want to know about an issue, what do they think they know, what do they know about an issue, and what do they want to see? What kind of effort do they want to see on our part for digging into it? Portlanders of all walks of life, to a very high degree, having lived for 4 years in Washington, D.C., Portlanders are these awesome public policy nerds, even if they don't know it. And I like to tap into that. There's a lot of wisdom there. It doesn't mean there's always agreement, but there's still a lot of wisdom to be gathered along the way.
So should the community expect to see more community engagement happening from the county leadership when you're there?
It will be,
if you're there, I said when.
If I'm there. The biggest shock the biggest shocking insight I've had about county government is how it sort of, I don't mean this entirely pejoratively, but how it sort of floats in a parallel universe. campaigning. I'm a retail, on-the-ground kind of campaigner, door-to-door and meeting to meeting. And, when I ask folks at meetings of community-based organizations, at Main Street business, neighborhood business organizations, neighborhood associations, and I'll go to say a few words to them, introduce or reintroduce myself, talk a little bit about why I'm running, and I'll ask them, what's your relationship with the county? What's your organizational relationship with the county? And oftentimes I'll get variations in responses. Sam, you're as close to a county official that has ever reached out to talk to us. So the short answer is, if I'm going to do more outreach, it's heck yes. These are so difficult of an issues. And to think that we've got every perspective in one brain, or lived experience in one brain, is A, wrong, and B, will, without engaging with that, will make for bad policy. And I can't believe how isolated the county has made itself from the community. It helps explain for me how some of the decision making in recent years sort of came about. The issue, to take on these tough issues, you need to get out and see the issues on the ground and hear people's interaction with those issues. And that's just not happening enough, not even close.
I'm going to ask a Sam-style follow-up.
Yeah.
If you're elected into this role, how long before the community actually sees you start to organize community engagement for Multnomah County, so that you can become informed in a systems-style way about how the community is feeling about certain initiatives?
I'll be doing outreach the first week, the first month that I'm in office, which just comes weeks after the election.
You heard it here first. Within 30 days of being in the office.
It just breaks my heart, the number of smart people I talk to in this campaign that have never been asked by the county for their input. It just breaks my heart because they feel left out.
Yeah.
And the county hasn't had the benefit of their input.
Okay. 30 days.
30 days.
We'll be watching and counting if you are elected into that role.
Knock on wood.
All right, I've got a couple more questions for you. One of your most famous and controversial measures during your career was your support of the small homes or villages for people experiencing homelessness that would consist of small accommodations with separate bedrooms and shared bathrooms. How would you describe the effectiveness of that plan, that initiative?
So in November of 2022, my team and I in the mayor's office got council to approve, and we worked with Dan Ryan's office, got council to approve 5 resolutions. And among other things, they called for the city's first commitment to see built 20,000 units of affordable housing in 10 years. To put together, and we'll need your help to make this really work, a workplace program for folks that were experiencing outdoor houselessness that consisted more of just picking up litter, but more meaningful day labor, week labor kind of jobs. It was a citywide ban on camping that's phased in geographically. And then that phase-in would happen as these larger official outdoor shelters that are tents or these small sort of dwellings. Those pieces were all intended to work together, and if I'm lucky enough to get elected to the county, I'm going to continue to move that forward. In the days ahead, I'll have an announcement on affordable housing and an initiative that I think we need to take to put the emergency actions behind the on-the-ground crisis that we're seeing when it comes to the severe housing shortage. So those are key issues. I'm going to continue to do that. In terms of, are these The reason that we went with outdoor official camps is while I spent 2 years spending a lot of time talking to folks experiencing houselessness, and we improved our offer of help. It used to be you used to get that sort of purple square book that you'd look for phone numbers through if you were homeless, and the city would the city would hand them. And you had to have a cell phone that had, minutes left on it, and it had to be charged. And then you had to call around and find out if there are any openings at, homeless shelters. And if there was someone who wasn't completely overwhelmed at a shelter, if they could pick up the phone, And then you would have to find a way to get you and your belongings, which you would understand if you were homeless, that were really dear to you.
Yep.
And I would ask them, what do you want? And they said, I'd love a place where I want to live outside. I'd love a place where we could live outside and not be moved around all the time.
Right.
And had basic sort of amenities. And so that's why we went with the outdoor camp style, larger than had been done before, because our clients, our would-be clients, wanted something like that. And they're called the TAS sites, the temporary alternative shelter sites. We're terrible at branding.
Yeah, that's it.
In government.
We just call them the tiny villages.
The tiny villages. But, it's been about a year now that the small rest villages and these TAS sites have been out there. And the early analysis by PSU, independent analysis, shows that 46% of people that went and were clients of these outdoor shelters, 46% made it into permanent housing. And that compares to the traditional county-run shelters, which are indoor shelters, sea of cots in big rooms called congregate shelters, which were only getting 10% of folks into permanent housing. Part of the reason behind them was to offer a product that people experiencing houselessness are going to feel comfortable in, because you actually want them to stay there so that you can help them get stabilized. There's nurses on at these centers, and they get their medicine, and that arrives. They get stable. They get a connection with one of our outreach workers, and they're more likely to say yes to the offer of permanent housing, whereas the traditional congregate big rooms with lots of cots in them that are constantly churning every day isn't working. So yes, I'm going to continue to work on these issues and continue to improve upon them.
Okay. Why do you think it was so controversial that you provided a central location with services and amenities for folks who were experiencing houselessness to move their site a place where they can be stable and get support? Why was that so controversial? I never understood.
It was the element of this that was the phased-in camping ban, that you couldn't just get to camp wherever you want. That was the controversial part of this. But that's an important part of this. I believe that takes a public health approach to it, because when I came back to City Hall, we had 800 ever-moving homeless camps across 146 square miles that is the city of Portland, and there is no way we would ever be able to hire enough outreach workers to get to those camps that are constantly moving and establish any sort of bond with our outreach workers and people experiencing houselessness, which means they're just out there.
Right.
So that's why co-locating folks and not letting folks just camp wherever they want, to me, those work together. It's that sort of relentless compassion of that we all need sometimes. I need it sometimes. And I grew up with folks that had substance abuse and mental health problems, and if they got to do what absolutely ever they wanted to do, some would have been fine, but a lot wouldn't have been.
Right.
So trying to get people connected to services is what the camping ban and the outdoor shelters are all about, working together.
Relentless compassion. Huh, okay. 2 questions. The second to last question is, what do you think Multnomah County is doing well right now?
Multnomah County has some very talented leaders, very talented staff, clearly some great partners. I think that one of the best things they're doing right now is they've hired some incredibly good contractors like Central City Concern and Transition Projects and others that take, you know, two wooden nickels and rub them together and create services out of that. I think those projects and the programs that those nonprofits are doing for us through the county, that the workers that power that work, you know, aren't getting paid enough, and they're having trouble attracting and keeping talented people. So we'll need your help on that too.
And the talent is getting burnt out. Transition Projects is a client, and I mean their staff, they work so hard, and they see a lot of people who are at their darkest hours, and they absorb all of that energy. It's a lot, and they get paid very little to do that because that's what the budget affords and allows.
But I want to help change that. I want to help change that because we actually need to keep those kinds of passionate, all-in kind of workers on behalf of these, what are nonprofit organizations, partners with the county. So that partnership is going really well in terms of delivering, as you're pointing out, and I agree, it's not sustainable with inadequate funding.
Yeah, okay, all right. I see what you did there. I like it, I like it. My final question for you, Sam. I'm sorry, I haven't called you Sam ever, I don't think. Every time I've known, hey, you've always been Mayor Adams, but you are Sam today. He's Sam today.
Sam I am, Sam I am.
I want you to, my final question is, for those folks who are on the fence, they're trying to figure out who they're gonna vote for.
Right.
Why you, why now?
Well, I'm running for Multnomah County because despite having some great leaders, great staff, amazing partners, too often county decision-making at the top lacks focus, urgency, it lacks good partnershiping, it lacks accountability. And the issues of its core responsibility are issues that I've worked on at the city. And I'm not afraid to gather people together and take on the tough issues. And these are tough issues, and I've worked getting change through well-intentioned but often siloed bureaucracies. So I'm running to bring everything I've learned, all the questions I have, my passion for this place to this work, not only to help the county do a better job, but to help the cities and the county together do better work.
Well, thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Sam.
Great interview.
Appreciated having you. And thanks for watching this edition of Word on the Street, Election Edition with Sam Adams, not Mayor Adams.
Sam.
I'm supposed to call him just Sam.
Call me Sam.
All right, until next time, we'll see you soon.